Hey everybody, I'm Aznfunk. Welcome back to my channel. In this video is part 3, the last and final video of my interview with Bob Bretall, the Guinness World Records holder for the largest comic book collection. He basically had his monthly pull list delivered to his room, so we ended up having an impromptu unboxing, which is pretty fun. I'd like to give a huge thanks again to Bob Bretall for taking the time out of his day to chat with me about comics, movies, and everything between. He is one of the most knowledgeable people I've ever spoken to about comics. I highly recommend visiting his website, comicspectrum.com. It's an amazing resource for comic book knowledge, and he has his own blog on there too, so you can kind of get to keep up with him and what's going on in his life. If you are new to my channel, please hit the like and subscribe. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter. Otherwise, I will see you guys in the next video. Bye. Hey everybody, I'm Aznfunk. Welcome back to my channel. In this video, I am joined by Mr. Bob Bretall, the creator of comicspectrum.com and the reigning Guinness Book of World Records holder for the largest comic book collection in the world. What's the last Marvel or superhero movie you saw in a theater?
Did any come out? What was probably the last Marvel movie that came out? No, that came out before.
Oh, it was Far From Home. Was that Far From Home?
Far From Home. That was my favorite Spider-Man movie.
Oh, really? Huh.
Yeah.
I heard you're a fan of Tom Holland.
I really like Tom Holland as Spider-Man. He, to me, he kind of captures something about, and like the way they write him, where he's like kind of that wisecracking kind of Spider-Man, like kind of jumping around and all. I really like that, and it's not comic, right? And that's the thing. It's like I don't need my superhero movies to be a literal transition of everything from the comic to the movie, because they're different media and they're made for a different audience.
Sure.
So I'm okay with them making adjustments. When the people making the movie and they're making the adjustments are aware of and have a respect for the source material versus people who are just making changes for the hell of it.
Yeah.
When you see like one of the FF movies, right?
Yeah. Which one?
Not great movies, right?
Yeah. I mean, they have great elements in them, and they have great.
That's an excellent point, because the movies, even ones that I think are flawed, like the last FF movie with Michael B. Jordan.
Yeah.
That was a flawed movie. But I really liked the interaction between Reed and Ben, the way that they had Reed and Ben, showed them as friends from when they were kids.
Sure, yeah.
They worked together. I think Michael B. Jordan's a very charismatic, and he's a good actor. So I mean, there were good elements in it. I mean, they had some decent effects in it. I think that like the whole throwing Doctor Doom into and having an origin in every single movie is getting old, and that kind of wears on them.
Yeah.
So
they basically remade the first movie again, but they just recasted everybody, and it didn't do. Yeah.
It didn't bother me that Johnny was like a stepbrother or whatever.
That's right.
It's like that kind of.
That kind of had to make sense for the remake.
Yeah. It didn't bother me. It just.
Well, I actually thought that was a good, that's a really cool way to modernize a story, right? To bring it to present day. Yeah.
Exactly. It's just like, when they change and they make, in the Far From Home movies, like Zendaya as Mary Jane. She does a really good job as Mary Jane.
Oh, yeah.
In those movies, it's just, you can't take that and change it, or, like they change Flash. In the context of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it kind of works.
Right.
I don't mind it. I'm kind of easygoing on like a lot of that stuff, which is probably why I've like kind of survived as long as I have without burning out on comics, because I don't get bent out of shape very easily about things like that. I might not like something, and then I just, I'm not going to read that anymore.
Right, yeah.
This is like, I'm not going to like start carrying a poster around saying, "Oh, I'm gonna pick at these guys." It's like
Yeah.
I don't like a lot of the New 52 changes that survive to this day at DC. I don't read that many DC books anymore. And I used to love DC, but was never a native DC guy, right? That's the thing with, I think, comic fans is like, what's your first introduction? And I came in through Marvel, right?
Right. Yeah.
And I went from Marvel to DC, and for a couple of decades there, I pretty much equally, I liked Marvel and DC, but I was always a Marvel guy who also liked DC. So it was kind of like, for me to kind of stray back away from DC. But even Marvel, I never got bent out of shape when they, so okay, they bring Kamala Khan in. Those were some good stories. And I think personally, when they bring in Amadeus Cho and they bring in, Jane Foster and Kamala Khan and Miles Morales and all these things.
Yep.
First off, I genuinely think they told some really good stories with those characters. Now, some of those, like Lunetta, like Moon Girl, fabulous character. Making her like the smartest character in the Marvel universe and all that.
Yeah.
Amazing. A lot of the actual stories are not my cup of tea because they're written for a different audience.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So, like, Ms. Marvel, I love the character. I read it for a while, but it's not written for me. So I don't read it on an ongoing basis, but I love the character and I love what they did with the character, even before they made him into a Hulk, which I thought was not necessary. I loved the Amadeus Cho character when he was just kind of kicking around with Hercules and the Hulk. Absolutely fabulous character. And I love that they put the diversity in. Like when I pick up a Squirrel Girl comic and I read the letters page in that comic, and there's all these little girls in their little Squirrel Girl costume or whatever writing in about how much they love this and they're reading the comic. It's like, that's what we need in comics. It's just like having something that some little girl can read, or someone who's not a white guy can read this comic and see themselves and put themselves into the comic. How can that be a bad thing? And some of these fans who get all bent out of shape about that, I don't understand the mindset of these people. Where it's like, so if you don't like Jane Foster as Thor, don't read comics with Jane Foster as Thor.
Yeah, there's hundreds of other comics where
you got 600 issues of Thor out there.
Yeah.
I'll read those again. It's like, what do you care? Why do these people get so worked up about this stuff, and they get all up in arms and everything? It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I will
love it.
Right. Well, I'll agree with you with the diversity thing because, like before, there was like, Shang-Chi and the Mandarin, right? Those were like your two big Asian characters in Marvel Comics. You were either a bad guy or you were an Asian guy that knew martial arts. Like, okay. But yeah, like the fact that, an Asian guy could be the Hulk, that's different. And I think also, like, I was never really a big fan of like Daredevil. And then, especially if it was written by like Frank Miller or something, but then when like Mark Waid wrote it, and then I was like, oh, okay, I kind of like this version of Daredevil. And I really think like it depends on who is telling the story for that character that can make you a fan.
Right. And that's the thing, is like they change things a lot. And it's just like, I think it's good because the more they change it, the more they open up so that they have new avenues of these things for people to maybe enjoy, right? That they might not have enjoyed. But here's my DCBS box.
Ooh, an unboxing video.
I just switched to monthly shipping on DCBS.
Oh, I see. See, you're not getting like a weekly.
I was getting weekly comics from them for years.
Oh yeah, here we go.
Let's see what we got.
Well, what's in the box, Bob? Oh, that's awesome. So you're getting more than just like your weekly pull list. You're getting actually like, either omnibuses or there it is. Okay. And these are just DC, right?
Oh, no.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. Oh, that's cool.
And
Oh, what? All of that was in that box?
yeah, that's the Dave Cockrum X-Men artist edition.
Oh, awesome.
So I was getting most everything from them, but I mean now that they're a DC distributor, I don't like that very much.
Right.
I don't think that's good for the comic industry. Maybe as much as I didn't like Diamond having a monopoly, I think that DC kind of jumped the gun a little bit on giving their thing to some people who are just maybe not prepared to handle it. So
Right. Oh
this
yeah.
stuff I read on a regular basis. There's Die 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 by Kirkman and
Oh yeah.
Something is Killing the Children from
Yep.
Boom.
Love Boom.
The Amethyst from DC. I like the art, Amy Reeder. Undiscovered Country.
Heard of that?
That is by Scott Snyder and Charles Soule.
Yep.
Daredevil. Legion.
Cool.
Adventure Man.
Huh. Never heard of that one.
It's issue 1. It's by Matt Fraction and
I love Matt Fraction.
the Dodsons, Terry and Rachel Dodson. Wellington.
That's weird looking.
Sonata.
Oh, So how long does it take you to go through these? I mean, how many comics do you read a day, Bob?
It takes me, I can read, if I sit down and start reading, I will read probably 6 to 7 comic books in an hour.
Oh, well, okay. So you really kind of just like you go through them like in bulk. You just kind of just do a quick read through.
No, I mean that just takes about 10 minutes. It varies, right?
Yeah. I've never heard of that one.
It's an indie called Ginseng Roots. You ever hear of the book Blankets?
No.
This guy, Craig Thompson, he's brilliant. But anyway, he grew up in Michigan, I guess, and like as a kid, like ginseng. I didn't even know that ginseng was grown in Wisconsin or something. It's like this is all about.
Oh, that's so random. Wait, who's the publisher?
Uncivilized.
Oh,
like
okay. Sure.
Undone by Blood.
Undone by Blood. Okay.
Mountainhead. You get out a good test on my diversity, right?
Yeah. Okay, I've heard of that one. Yep.
Family Tree.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Superman. Strange Adventures.
Cool.
Heart Attack.
Oh, yep. Image. Yep. Wow, you really do get a diverse. Oh, yeah, Jane. I've been meaning to read that series.
Actually, pretty well done. And some are better than others depending on who's writing it.
Right.
Warren Ellis went through Forum. Azzarello and Love It. Oh,
yeah, I've heard of that too. Yeah. Red Nails.
It's French Conan.
Oh, interesting.
This is an interesting comic because originally they were saying that it wasn't going to be available. They had solicited it, and then Diamond canceled the orders because Marvel got a little bit of a spit because they're doing Conan books, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
But Robert E. Howard wrote these books 100 years ago. Just like kind of like Edgar Rice Burroughs. I mean, they're in the public domain. Most parts of the world, other than the U.S., where like Disney has bribed congressmen to like redo the copyright laws to keep their stuff from going into public domain.
Right.
And so it was a bunch of French graphic novels, and it's not that there was any kind of a legal issue because they were completely legal to publish, but Diamond just didn't want to screw with Marvel, so they said they weren't going to do them. So I went ahead and bought some of the French graphic novels.
Oh, wow, okay.
French, I couldn't really read them, but I knew the stories because I'd read Conan for decades.
Yeah, yeah.
Really cool art, though.
Yeah, it looked awesome. Touching
Evil.
Okay.
Breathers. Kind of an interesting one.
Huh, I like the style.
Current situation is like,
yeah, no kidding.
Everybody has to wear like face masks when they come out because the air is actually toxic, but can change it a little bit and it's like just full of COVID virus.
Right.
Dark Red from Aftershock. Vampirella.
Yep. Perillo, yep.
I love Lucio Perillo. Awesome. Billionaire Island. This one's, I don't know if I'm going to stick with this one. It's like not that much to my taste.
You're giving it one more chance?
Yeah. The Man Who Fucked.
That's pretty funny.
That's
I'm surprised you're not reading Shirtless Bear Fighter, Bob.
I did read Shirtless Bear Fighter.
Oh, okay.
It's not coming out new, but I read it when it came out.
Mercy.
This is by Mirka Andolfo. I really like her art.
Oh yeah, it's very kind of reminds me of like an anime. Like it's very clean.
Yeah, she's European. It's really nice. Immortal Hulk.
Oh, is that a Ross cover?
Yep, they've all been Ross covers so far.
Oh yeah, I need to get me the snapshot ones.
Marvel Snapshot Cap.
I wish the titles weren't so big on them.
Once in Future. This is an awesome series.
Who's writing that one?
It's by Kieran Gillen.
Okay. There's more? Oh my gosh.
That Texas Blood. White Widow.
That's a cool cover.
Pretty much done with. Wicked Thing. I love this guy.
The artist or writer?
John Allison. He did a series called Giant Days, which is one of my all-time favorite series. An Omen. Another issue of Touching Evil. Oh, Terry Moore. I love Terry Moore. 5 years. Last issue. Sex Criminals.
I gave that story a shot. I couldn't get into it. Oh, what's going on here? Vampires?
Yeah, redneck.
Oh.
It is in fact the vampires. This one's by Donnie Cates, rather. Sorry, guy who like is revered for all the stuff he's doing at Marvel with like Venom and Cosmic.
He's hot right now.
And all that.
Yeah.
A lot of those guys, I like their indie work more than I like their Marvel work.
Sure.
Oh, here's the new Kirkman.
Firepower. Oh, from Kirkman. Man, he's writing a lot of stuff that's not Walking Dead.
Well, Walking Dead, this is actually really good.
What's your local shop, Bob?
Nuclear Comics in Aliso Viejo.
Nuclear Comics. Okay. Are they doing curbside or are they letting people in? What are they doing?
He lets you in. You gotta wear masks. I mean, it's not like they ever have that many people in there.
Gotcha. That's cool. Wow. I am really jealous
So that was my box. So like you see, I mean, I had like two Marvel, two DC, lots of other.
Well, I'm actually really, I'm more surprised by the ratio of, there's very few Marvel DC in that, and it's mostly independent, like, or like, you know, some of these covers I've never even heard of, even, or titles, even from like publishers I have heard of. Like
there's so many good titles out there, and that's the thing. It's like, you know, if you look at these things, it's like, and the things that I like aren't necessarily the exact same things any other one person will like.
Sure, yeah.
Right? Because all of these things, that's why I'm kind of against saying like something's good or bad just because I like it or not, as long as it's kind of professionally done and executed.
Totally, yeah. If it's good, it's good, right? Rather, yeah.
But, you know, I might not like it. You know, it's just like, that is beside the point on whether it's a good quality book or not. Just like you said, you tried, what was
Sex
it?
Criminals.
Sex Criminals, right? It wasn't your
I gave it a shot, yeah.
But it's a professionally done book, right? You know, like Matt Fraction and Chip.
Yeah, and I love Matt Fraction.
You can't, you know, argue that these are like professional comic book creators at the top of their game, but that doesn't mean that you're automatically going to like everything that they put out. You're not going to click with it. So I like to try all different kinds of books because, you know, you never know which are going to become my favorite ones. Now, you know, I get like 80 or 90 different books every month.
Mm-hmm.
Not every one's my very favorite book. You know, some of them are middle of the road. As long as I don't like despise it, I'll usually, you know, kind of keep getting it. It's like, and not even just despise is not the right word. You know, it's just, you know, some of them, it's just, you're
not into it.
They click with you. You just don't get into it. You know, just like I said, like on Ms. Marvel or, you know, like that. I think they're great comics. It's just, I can't get into them the same way that someone who's in that target audience.
Yeah.
Like I look at like My Little Pony comics the same way. You know, I've been in a comic store and a little girl has dragged her dad in so she can buy My Little Pony comics.
Yeah.
I have zero desire to read My Little Pony comics, but the fact that some little girl is dragging her dad to the comic store so she can buy a comic book is the greatest thing in the world as far as I'm concerned. You know, it's just like, you know, we need more comics like that. I want there to be more of those kind of comics that get kids excited about comics, that get them become comic readers, you know? And
yeah, absolutely.
Some of these books, like Sex Criminals, is one that's like, there's a certain demographic. It's like you get like your 20-something people who like really get into it, and it's like some guy might show that to his girlfriend, and they, you know, whatever. It's like not like it's farthest thing from a superhero comic book, you know, and it's just, it's something that maybe it's going to click with somebody, and it's something that, you know, gets somebody to appreciate the medium.
Well, yeah, whatever it takes, right? Like, you know, it doesn't matter what the story is, as long as it's good. And if someone likes it, then you're introducing them into comics, right? Like whatever it takes to get them into comics. And there are lots of stories out there that should be told and are being told now in comics, which is great. And I will say, I'll mention this before I let you go. You know, I'm not a really big podcast person, but have you heard of the podcast Wolverine: The Long Night?
I've heard of it.
If there's one thing you take from our little chat, Bob, is if you have the time to listen to a podcast, listen to that one. It is probably one of the best Wolverine stories I've ever heard. And it was so good that they turned that podcast into a 5-issue miniseries. So you can read the comic if you want. It's still called Wolverine: The Long Night. I highly recommend reading that. And it's great because I've heard a lot of people who don't read comics and they only listen to podcasts, and then now they're reading comics because of that. So, like I said, whatever it takes to get people into comics.
So that's like a dramatization of a story. So that's a different kind of podcast.
Yeah.
A lot of podcasts are people talking.
It's called a podcast, but it's really like, it's one of those, it's like a
audio
motion
drama.
Yes, and it is incredible.
I've listened to audio comics before. I mean, that were well done.
Sure.
So
Yeah. So yeah, I
if
mean,
you've got a favorite creator, look for the podcast Word Balloon by John Suntress.
Word Balloon.
Word Balloon.
Okay.
And he does interviews, long form interviews with comic creators.
Really?
Bendis, like all the big names, and even indie people too. And just like
I'll add that.
He'll talk to Greg Rucka, he'll talk to Brian Michael Bendis, he'll talk to Matt Fraction, he'll talk to
like it's just a conversation, right? They're just talking.
Yeah. Well, they talk about comics, and they'll talk about their comics, and they talk about other stuff too. But that's an awesome podcast if you want to hear from the creators behind the comics. If you've got some favorite creators and kind of want to hear them talking about comics, that's probably the best one, because that's pretty much all that show does. Okay.
Well, I know that Joe Quesada, I think he's like the editor-in-chief at Marvel. He does
creative officer.
Chief creator. That's right. Sorry. He has a YouTube / podcast that's similar to that, where he's interviewing just comic book creators and they talk about comics. So yeah, I like those, so I'll probably like the one that you just mentioned.
Yeah.
Cool. Wow. It's been 2.5 hours, Bob.
Yeah. I told you. And I warned you that once you got me started, I could talk about pretty much anything.
Yeah, you did warn me. I was like,
longer than you wanted to hear me.
No. And you know what? Honestly, I haven't had lunch yet, and if I
haven't either. I got to eat something too.
Exactly. If I didn't have to eat, Bob, I could talk to you till probably dinner time.
We could do it again. I don't mind.
Yeah.
And like I said, you lucked out. You got to break it into a separate episode. You had an unboxing. I didn't finish going around the room with you.
Yeah.
I could show you some more stuff, but
yeah, let me know when you. Yeah, if you have
fun stuff. I mean, there's so many different things about comics that, especially people who mostly read superhero books, there's so many different things that they could try. Just like, and there's nothing wrong with the superhero books. Like, I still like superhero books.
Sure.
But there's so many other things out there that I read and I'm like, wow, this is fabulous, that I just love.
Yeah. And I will say one last thing. I said this like 10 minutes ago, but I remember walking through a comic book shop and seeing a whole shelf with Saga. Like, they were pushing Saga really big, right, when it first came out. And I was like, that is the weirdest cover I've ever seen, because it's got the kid drink breastfeeding. Right. And I was like, that is a weird. That's a weird. I'm not gonna, and I don't like space that much. And then I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot. And this was like a year after it came out, so they already had 15, 20 issues or whatever. Right. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is like one of the best stories I've ever written or ever read. And I was like, they're for sure gonna make this into a show. It's so good.
Brian K. Vaughan is one of my favorite writers. I mean, there are, I have favorite writers. I mean, I have a lot of favorite writers, a really long list of writers who I really admire, who just generally, it's very rare that they'll disappoint me. One of those is Mark Waid, of course.
Yep, Mark Waid's great, yep.
I mean, his take on a character is usually going to be one of my favorite takes, or at least a unique one that will get me, back. So I'll pretty much buy anything he writes, sight unseen.
Yeah. Well, you're more willing to give it a chance without even hesitating, right? You'll just I'll read it.
Like, certain things I will give a chance, but if it's certain writers, they rarely fail me. There's certain writers that rarely fail me. Other writers are very well regarded writers, but they're kind of hit or miss for me.
Sure.
Very popular writer. He wrote. You don't read that much DC?
No.
Who wrote the new X-Men with Quitely? And I don't know why I'm blanking on him, because he's like Grant Morrison.
Oh, okay. I was like, Whedon? No, that's not it.
No, Grant Morrison. very gifted writer, but like he's 50-50. There is like some stuff he'll write that is just like I cannot wrap my head around. It's just too weird for me. And other stuff he'll write it and it's just like, man, that is brilliant. It's just like
Yeah.
so I'll always try something by Grant Morrison, but I won't unreservedly try it because it might be in that half that just doesn't click with me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Neil Gaiman rarely lets me down. Mark
Yeah.
Waid rarely lets me down. Brian K. Vaughan rarely lets me down.
Yeah.
So it's like I will pretty much get anything by those guys. Kirkman, for that matter. I really like what he does. It's not everybody's cup of tea. I know a lot of people, they read Walking Dead for a certain amount of time and they get burned out on it.
Sure.
I love Walking Dead I started reading it at issue 7 or 8.
Oh, wow. Okay.
All the way up till the end, but he like the biggest surprise possible in modern comics where he just like ended it out of the blue was a total surprise to everybody.
It's like he's so successful. He can do that. He can do that. But
crazy.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, Bob. I really appreciate you being here and I'm super honored and I really enjoyed talking. I hope we can do this again.
Sure.
Yeah. Let me know when you have another box coming in. We'll do an unboxing or something.
Another month.
Okay.
They come randomly. I don't know. That's the thing. I used to always count on where my weekly box would come in, but
that's right. You
the
do
monthly one. They seem to ship it out like it's like 10th, and I'm getting the box from June.
Yeah.
It seemed kind of late.
Okay. Well, maybe it was meant to be then to do a little unboxing. Okay. Thanks so much, Bob. I really appreciate it. I will talk to you soon.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. Thanks again for watching. If you'd like to watch more interviews, click here. For everything else, click here. I'll wait. Just click one of these buttons and end my suffering.